We're at Hamble Yacht Services this afternoon. It's the day the clocks went on and it's fitting out time in the spring in the Solent. We're surrounded here by modern yachts with modern keels. Very, very efficient when the boats are sailing. So long as these boats are moving at a certain speed, those keels will lift them up to windward in a way that nothing ever would before. They've got loads of ballast down at the bottom, keeping the boats upright. There are, of course, compromises to be made, and keels have to be very, very securely attached, and we all know what happens when that doesn't work. But on the whole, they work very, very well indeed. And the boats sail extremely well. They've got very, very flat sections up forward here, and when they're going upwind, they probably slam down on the sea, but my goodness me, they go upwind quickly. And all this has been achieved, well, I suppose in my lifetime really. I was born in 1947. And when I was born, boats were a very different shape altogether. And in my grandfather's day, they were unrecognisable. And just behind me here, we've got another boat altogether. And this boat is owned by it's my family really. The boat is owned by my daughter and my son-in-law. And they've had her for a year now. Before that, they had another boat of the same sort of type. And the boat, I think, is an absolute wonder. She's a boat called Lady Bell. And she was built in 1909 by Harley Mead on the Isle of Wight, and she was built on the lines of a vessel called a Falmouth Quay Punt, which was a general working boat from the port of Falmouth down at the west end of the English Channel, a boat that could take to the sea, and a boat that would sail more than adequately and yet still be able to survive in the worst weather that came along. A boat for serious stuff. So let's go and have a look at her. Here she is. She's 28 feet long on deck, and I don't know how long she is with her bowsprit out and her bumpkin out, but she'll be an awful lot longer than that. But we don't say too much about that, just in case the harbour master's watching and he tries to charge us for the whole length of the boat. So at the moment, all her outriggers are in, and she looks very stumpy, doesn't she? But you know, she's all boat under the water, all boat. There's no keel hanging down, there's nothing to get knocked off. And one of the wonders of these traditional hulls is that, unlike the modern yacht, which cuts away here and goes away down to the keel, doing its great job, these boats just sweep down. And so you've got all this lateral area up forward here, which holds the boat up to windward when she's not going anywhere. So she's got a lot of what we might call static lateral resistance. The modern yacht has got fantastic dynamic resistance. When she's sailing upwind, that keel would just do such a job. But when she stops, it does nothing at all. So she just blows around like a crisp packet on the water. These boats do not. So if you're stuck in a gale of wind and you want to heave to with a backed headsail and your mainsail idling in a close reaching attitude, your tiller hard down to leeward, this big forefoot will hold the bow up to windward, and she will lie probably 40-45 degrees to whatever's coming and stay there. And I know that's true because I've done it many times in my own boats. Lady Bell doesn't have a huge amount of draft forward, but as you move aft, the draft steadily increases. There's a lot of lead ballast built onto the bottom there, all bolted in all the way along. It's not vulnerable at all. And when you get to the aft end of the boat, you see the real big secret. Remember, this is only a 28-foot boat, and I'm standing under her here. The waterline is above my head, and we've got this wonderful dead drop of keel here that's really going to hold her up. And when she's sailing, she points up amazingly well. You wouldn't believe it really how well this boat sails. She just bustles along with her great big mainsail and her topsails and her big sail area, just pushing her along. A fabulous thing. And here's something else. The rudders on the modern yachts are really supported only by the rudder stock going up through the hull. If it's really well built, it'll take you around the world and back. But if there's anything doubtful about it, the rudder is vulnerable. On a boat like Lady Bell, the rudder is virtually bomb-proof. It's got a great big pintle and a gudgeon at the bottom, 2 more pintles as you go up. you can inspect it easily. There's nothing hidden. You can see exactly what's going on. And actually, Dan, my son-in-law, is busy replacing these two bolts because they were getting a little bit worn. So they're out at the moment, and the rudder's supported by a bit of string at the top. You can see what you're doing. And if you have to, you can do it yourself. You can even do something at sea if things go to the bad. And if we move round to the stern now and just have a look at her from aft, you can see the absolute glory of the boat. When you get right dead round by the stern, you can just look down her and see that lovely, lovely shape. It's absolutely outrageous. Look at it. My goodness me, the propeller disappears, and this, look at it. What a thing of beauty. Isn't that something? I remember this boat when I was a young fella on the river back in 1970. My wife and I had our first little boat, and it was a tiny boat, and it wasn't much really of a boat. And we used to look at Lady Belle in those days, and we used to think, oh, if we could ever have a boat like that, how happy we would be. And we used to see her creaming up the Solent, beating most of the boats in sight with a great big rig pulling her along. And she was grey in those days. And actually, most of the old boats around the river were grey because a great big dustbin full of grey paint had somehow slipped out of the dockyard at Portsmouth, the battleship grey. So all the boats went grey that year. It was a good joke, but the paint was free and we all used it. And I remember Lady Belle when she was grey, but she's come up in the world since then. She's got a nice boot top, and there it goes. So right now she's rubbed down. We haven't done the bottom. There's lots of work still to do before she looks like a proper yacht and goes back in the water. But it's just a great thing to see all the progress that's been made and the cost of that progress. Nothing at sea is for free. But you know, Lady Belle almost marks our passage as a race of men. She was there when I was a young lad on the river, 1970. How old was she then? She was 60 years old then. Now she's 100 years old, and I'm 70, and I was in my 20s then, and she's still here. And do you know, I think she'll still be here when I'm long gone. What a grand, grand thing is a fine old boat.